My name is Jason from Map of the Month, and I'm the cartographer here, and I'm going to be walking you through a new set of maps that we have. In addition to our USA map, we've also created a series of regional maps that cover the whole United States. We've broken the country into 5 different groups. So this series is going to concentrate on each one of those regions. And let me give you a quick look at 5 different regions. Here we have the Northeast region. Okay. Then we've got the Southeast region, the Midwest, the Southwest, and the West. And that pretty much covers all 50 states. We've decided to use those divisions because it kind of shows the country in a very accessible way. So let's look at. We can start with the Northeast regional map first, I just want to go over some of the things that are common to each one of the maps. Every map has a title. And we did that in block letters so that you could decorate those letters. Every map will have a compass rose. We'll get into that. Every map will have a map key. And in addition to that, we're going to have a very decorative border, which will also include a functional map grid. As well as being a decorative border, it will also have a grid system that will allow you to locate things on the map too. So we've got some other little decorations too. If you notice, we highlighted some of the state symbols, and we listed them for one of the states. Here are the Rhode Island state symbols, and we actually drew a couple of symbols from some of the other states as well. Okay, so we'll talk about that too as we go along. And I thought maybe it would be nice to start with the Northeast regional map. Now, to work on these maps, some of the things you're going to need are some color pencils, a pencil with an eraser, okay, and it helps to have like maybe in your classroom you have a wall map, or maybe here's a nice little atlas of the United States that I have. It's very helpful. Okay, so you might be using your laptop to access some of the maps that are on the internet. So those are a few different things that will be helpful. But I'll walk you. I won't walk you through every single thing to label on the map, but I'll give you some of the basics. Okay, so if you look at our Northeast region, I've started to color in the title. That's a nice start to your map. So you could kind of begin with that, and that's a good way to start your map off. I've also labeled a couple of the easy states. Some of these are a little bit bigger states in the Northeast. Maine. I used all capital letters for the state name. And I used lowercase for this is the capital. So that little star, if you look at the map key, the star represents the state capital. Okay, and I could probably add a little color to that symbol. That could be one of the first things we do with the map key. We could add a little, maybe we could make that star red. And if you want to start off your map with a simple activity, you could just start coloring in the different state capital symbols. Okay, I could do that one. Yeah, you can see I've also labeled New York. That was an easy state, such a big state in the Northeast. It was easy to label that state, and pretty easy to label the capital of Albany. So we have Maine and Augusta, New York and Albany. Okay. And I could color in some of these other stars too. All right, now maybe I could label a little bit some of the more challenging states too, just to give you an idea of what you need to do for some of these smaller states. Let's start off with the smallest state in the country, actually, Rhode Island. Here's Rhode Island. Now, I won't be able to fit the name Rhode Island within the state, so I'm going to use a leader line and pull it off to the side underneath and write it off to the side like this. Okay, once again, all capital letters for the state name. Rhode Island. Now, I can do the same thing with the capital. I could pull a little leader line and put it just below. And that would be the city of Providence. Notice how I'm trying to write the names nice and level. I've tried to do that. Rather than writing on an angle, it makes your map a lot easier to read if your labels are kind of nice and straight across. They don't have to be perfect, but just try to make sure that they're not. Sometimes we will have to angle things, but it's preferable to keep things nice and level. Makes the map easier to read. Okay. So Rhode Island was kind of a challenging state to label. Let's also do the state just to the north of Rhode Island. We could do, this is the state of Massachusetts. It's kind of a long name, so I'm going to give myself plenty of room to write it. I'll start way over. You have to use capital letters. Make sure you spell the words correctly. That's very important on your map. Okay, so there's the state of Massachusetts. And we have to label the capital, which is Boston. Now I could write it off to the side, or I could, maybe I'll fit it just a little bit below the star. That fit pretty good. Okay, so that one is, these two states were a little bit more challenging than the larger states. Okay, now in addition to the state name and the capital, we'll probably include bodies of water too, some major, especially the ocean names. So let me show you how we could label the, this is all Atlantic Ocean over here. We also have a couple of Great Lakes too. Okay, so let's do the ocean. I'll help you with the ocean. And that's kind of a fun one to put on your map, because I always like to use the ocean names to kind of decorate the map a little bit. I'll make the letters look a little bit more decorative. And sometimes I'll make them look like they're bobbing up and down in the water too. So I'll kind of like, I'm like a little bit like this. See how I'm putting those little serifs on the letter? You can make your letters look a little more decorative for the ocean names. This is the Atlantic. And I'll say ocean. Maybe I could put it right about here. Oh, another thing that appears on all the maps is the scale. the map scale. This distance equals 100 miles. So you could, the scale will be different for all of the different regions. So you could actually measure different distances on this map. Like I know that from Providence to Boston is approximately 50 miles. So if I was to put my pencil from star to star, that would be about half the scale right there. You can see that's about halfway. So that would be about 50 miles from Providence to Boston. So you can measure distances using the scale. Okay, now let me show you a little bit more finished version of this map. Okay, I've done a little bit more work on the map just to show you how your map will look. I've labeled additional states: Vermont, Montpelier, Vermont, Concord, New Hampshire, Hartford, Connecticut, Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, Trenton, New Jersey. Now this is kind of a interesting part of the map. Some schools like to just include Maryland and Delaware in the Northeast. Other schools put Maryland and Delaware in the Southeast. So depending on your school, if your teacher wants you to include Delaware and Maryland in the Northeast, you can go ahead and label these two states as well: Dover, Delaware, and Annapolis, Maryland, and Washington, D.C. too, if you want to put that in. Okay, if your school doesn't include these in the Northeast, you could make a little note saying part of the Southeast if you need to do that. Okay, here I've also labeled two of the Great Lakes: Lake Erie, Lake Ontario. Notice how I tried to color the lakes but not put too much. I didn't go too dark over the letters. I want to be able to still read those letters, okay? I also put a nice blue edging for the ocean. This is the coastline of the Northeast. And I colored I put a little shading. I didn't do the whole ocean, but I put a nice edging from Maine all the way down to the Chesapeake Bay in Maryland. In fact, I even labeled Chesapeake Bay and Delaware Bay. Long Island Sound. These are some little additional little details I put in. Here's Block Island, Martha's Vineyard. These are some islands off the Rhode Island and Massachusetts coast. Oh, there's Long Island, part of New York. Okay, if you look in the key, I haven't added any additional cities yet, but you notice I colored in the symbol for mountains, and I did put in some of the Appalachian Mountains from Maryland up to Maine. Okay, and I used a combination of brown and green. You can see I'm coloring the mountains separately like this. It makes them look a little easier to, you don't interfere with the map too much that way. Okay, now in the future videos, we'll get into a little bit more about the map grid and the compass rose, and we'll also go over the individual states within those different regions. Okay, but you can see that when you're done with your Northeast, it's going to look pretty nice. Okay, and I'll leave it up to you to do some of these states we didn't really talk about too much, but you can see how you get from just a plain black and white map to a map that's much more finished. And I'm sure your teacher will be adding other details to the map that I haven't talked about. Okay, all right, so in the next video we'll go to the Southeast region. All right, thanks.